about 10-15 minutes, if even that, to go over the materials, but I wanted to just walk you through and make sure that you're aware of the different components, okay? So towards the back, starting at, let's say page 78, doesn't really have a page, it says page 77. So the next one says part 3, duplicating masters. And then go ahead and turn the page. And you have what's called an inventory record. So there's the very first part of the book talks about an inventory, but you all don't really need to go ahead and do it unless you're just gung-ho on doing another assessment. Okay, so if what you want to go ahead and do is use your TPRI information. So if in kinder, you've got your phonological awareness. In first grade, you've got your phonological awareness component. You've got your phonics and so on. Where your TPRI is saying that your students need help with, that's the section in the book that you're going to go to. Yes? Mm-hmm. Okay. If you have a student that is still developing and they are, but in, say, in small group instruction when you're pulling them and it looks like they're having phonological awareness difficulties, then that's when you would go to this book. This book right here is used for intervention. And you can also use it as your Tier 1 instructional resource, because right now the only resource that you all have is the TPRI Intervention Guide. The TPRI Intervention Guide will give you some lessons that you can do, but it's very limited. There's usually 1 or 2 different sections. So say, for example, you're doing you finish your TPRI, and you see that your child is having a weakness in rhyming. So then you would go to I'm trying to see the 31. Here we go. Go to the Roman numeral 1 and 2. The very first part, you have your introduction, then you have your part 1. You do not have to administer the inventory unless you feel like you need some additional information on your student. Part 2 is where you're actually pulling the instruction. So, for example, if you have a child that is having difficulty in rhyming, where would you go according to this table of contents?
31.
So you would go to page 31. So if you go to page 31, it's going to go ahead and give you the section. So it's introducing, it'll say rhyming words. And so what are we doing in rhyming words? We're playing games with rhyming words, and so it gives you a little bit of background identification or information. And then it gives you 3 different types of activities. You'll be looking at recognition, where you're giving the kids the pair of words, and you're asking them whether or not they rhyme or not. The second level is now identification, where the students pick 2 rhyming words from a set of 3, and then you have a game called Odd Man Out. And then there's a third activity where now they're producing. But can you kind of see the hierarchy? You're going from, now I want you to just simply listen to a pair of words and tell me yes or no. Now I'm going to give you 3 words, and now I want you to identify for me which 2 words rhyme. And then the third step is I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to give me a rhyme that goes with that. And so the first part where it says rhyming words, that's just giving you an introduction. And then where it starts to say concept, introduction, is your first activity. And it'll walk you through it. So like, for example, concept introduction, it's saying you need to, for review, you're going to pull up your concept review card. When they refer to concept review card, it's these cards right here. So it says Soundations Concept 1 review card. This would be your Concept 1 review card. How do you know it's your Concept 1 review card? Because on the back it says Reading Concept Card 1. And then when you go to the next one, it says to also pull out the Reading Concept Card 2. How do you know? Because it says it on the back. And then anything, just like the TPRI, anything that's bolded is what you say to the students. So it's going to give you a little bit of information. It will give you some materials. You need a small mirror. And then you simply say exactly what it says on here. So I would pull this out. This cloud is a reminder of what a word is. We know that a spoken word is the smallest part of a language that makes sense by itself. Today we will learn something about special kinds of words. Listen to these two words and say them after me, watching your mouth in the mirror. Bike, bike. And then you see right after it, you see that it's kind of italicized and not in a bold print. That's what you're listening for the child to say. And then bolded again is what you say, and you just follow it along. The whole book is made up that way. And so, say for example, what would be another concept that would show up in your TPRI that a child would be having difficulties with?
Deleting final sound.
Deleting final sound. So let's go ahead and go to our table of contents. And let's look for the section that talks about deleting final sounds.
Phoneme awareness.
So you see phoneme awareness. And so that whole section starting at page 53, but where would we go exactly for deleting phonemes?
69.
You would go to page 69. So if we go to page 69, and so there's your deleting phonemes. And so you would pull words from page 71 to 73. So let's go to 71 and 73. So depending on where your child is, you have vowel consonant words, you have vowel consonant consonant words, and then you have your CVC words. And so here's just a list of words, so you don't have to try to go ahead and pull them out. And so it's going to say, I will say a word, you repeat the word. After you repeat the word, I will ask you to say it again, leaving off the initial final sounds, just like you do in TPRI. If the word is fat and I asked you to say it without the, and you would say at. You try, say man, say man. Now say man without the and. And so you go through that exact same process. So it's a quick practice. You wouldn't spend 20 minutes going through the whole list. You may start your guided reading this way. And so you're using it really more for an intervention, but also if you're noticing, especially in kinder, because oftentimes if we see that our kids are developed on it, then we just skip it altogether and we go right into letter name, letter sound, and continue to build that way. But you're going to notice that sometimes as you're working in guided reading that your kids are missing a certain component of phonological awareness when you pull that print and they're not understanding. And so you might look at it and go, now that word says cat. What would happen if you took the word cat and put a book in front of it? And they look at you all sorts of crazy, like they've never seen it or have never done that before. Then you would just note to self, I need to go ahead and pull some of that phonological awareness activity. So now you have a resource. And that's what Soundations is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be just a whole nother program, but for the longest time we didn't have something specific district-wide outside of the TPRI intervention guide. Okay?
Now you said this is only for tier 1?
It could be for tier 1, but it can be for tier 2.
Okay.
And remember,
Your tier 1, because you guys are one of the RTI
we're one of the
candidates?
pilots, so remember, your tier 1 is, I think this is one of the things we were talking about. Tier 1's a lot bigger than you think it is, because we tend to go, oh, they're tier 2 kids. No, probably they're tier 1 that need some intervention like this, and this is a specific intervention that we have to give them in tier 1.
Okay.
And also, don't be afraid to, like, say you got little Johnny Joe and Sally Sue and Betty, and they're sitting here. And Sally Sue, of the 3 of them, is really struggling with one something in here. This one may have already got it down pretty good, and this one may kind of have it down. It won't hurt them for just because this is really brief, is what I'm hearing you say. Very brief. So it won't hurt these two to practice again to help this one, and maybe them saying it'll even get it that one to catch it faster. So the thing is, you need to be sure that you're utilizing this and doing this.
And it's so user-friendly that if you ended up having a parent that wanted to come in and help, if you have an ESTA student or a RST student, and they are wanting to come and help specifically in the area of reading, I would go ahead and say, hey, I want you to go ahead and just, this 3 kids, I want you to pull them out in the hallway and just do some of these activities. And you don't even have to worry about giving them the right words because it's all scripted here for you. I know sometimes when teachers first look at the book and they see the first part and it has this long inventory, it's a little bit scary, like daunting, almost like, you want me to do another inventory? And that's not what it's meant for. And really, this book is coming out of the dyslexia program. This is Margaret Smith, trained under Aileen Cox, who was all part of the initial development at Scottish Rite for identifying students with dyslexia and providing services. And if you remember with dyslexia, if you're not aware of it, dyslexia is a specific area of weakness in the area of phonological awareness. It's a basic building block of reading. And so what we're hoping to be able to go ahead and do across our district by providing this as a resource for you to use when you already start to identify kids early on that they're having this difficulty is to provide them this intervention. And so when you're sitting at RTI and you're talking about a child that, especially you're a first grade teacher, and you're saying they still do not have a strong concept of phonological awareness. And I know that in Mr. Solis's class they use Soundations, and I've used Soundations, and it's still not making a difference. Wow, that's pretty powerful because now you've already talked about the specific intervention that addresses a specific weakness, and they're still having difficulty with it. And so what'll happen is that, yes, this is part of the dyslexia program, but this is not the only piece. And so that at least we'll know that you tried this with your student and it didn't work, and so we can pull another component into instruction. But if you're able to show us that you've been working in this and you've used a specific resource and the baby's still having difficulty, that makes a stronger case for early identification for a child.
So like, what we should do then is if we've tried these things and it's not working, should we go ahead and do
Yes.
so you've got what you've tried and it's not worked, and then you can bring that to the committee and show them?
And you can even go to a certain section. The inventory, the whole complete inventory takes about 20 to 30 minutes per child. So that's why I'm not recommending that you do it with your kids, because we're going to lose critical instructional time. But if there is a child that you just continue to look at, because what it does, say for example, rhyming, they're still having difficulties with rhyming, then go to the section of the inventory that says rhyming, and I think there should be like 3 or 4 components to it. And then it will be able to pinpoint for you what aspect of rhyming they're having difficulty with. And so you can have such an intelligent conversation with your RTI, because when you say they're having difficulty with rhyming, you're not just sitting there and saying, well, they can't rhyme. Well, what aspect of rhyming are they having difficulty with? Are they having difficulty with identifying, determining whether or not it rhymes in the first place? Are they having a difficult time being able to identify when you give them a list of words, or are they having a difficult time giving you words that rhyme? Because those are all 3 different levels. And so if you tell me that you've got a child that's having difficulty giving it to you versus a child that can't even identify it and all they have to say is yes or no, that's at 2 different levels. And so it's just really starting to pinpoint some of the critical aspects of reading is what we're trying to do.
Is there a way to get a set for, I don't think the inclusion teachers got this.